Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all is well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you end up enjoying this video or if you enjoy my channel, make sure you click that red subscribe button down below and you also put that post notification bell on. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that like button as well. It would just be a dream of mine to just talk about the NBA every single day for a living. That's a huge dream, but at the end of the day, you gotta dream big. I just absolutely love the game of basketball. That's why I'm named the Hoop Addict. And today, we're going to be talking about the Washington Wizards, and I feel like they're in one of the strangest or weirdest spots when it comes to the NBA. I feel they're going to be competitive, but can they close out basketball games? Also, are they going to go to the playoffs? Are they going to be a play-in team? And the Wizards have not been successful when it comes to these last few seasons, you could say. Wasn't successful under Scott Brooks, and obviously a brand new tenured year of having Wes Unseld Jr., second year head coach now, coming in with the defensive philosophy that we're going to be getting into that. But the huge storyline obviously was signing Bradley Beal to a Supermax 5-year, $251 million contract. And I really do believe Bradley Beal is one of the best scorers in the game, or it's just a fact. One of the best shot creators, one of the best difficult shot makers in the league. But at the end of the day, is he a number one option? I do believe he's more of a number two in this league. Can he elevate the other talent around him? Elevate maybe not star talent, like a Luka Doncic type of thing. You know, Luka elevates the players around him and they go on to win games. So there was mixed emotions when it came to that Supermax. Bradley Beal, no doubt about it, is a fantastic player, but they have been winning lately, and you could say it doesn't really provide you much flexibility when it comes to the future with that contract, especially if you're going to have to go on to pay these young guys, but also you have to make sure that these draft picks pan out, because when it comes to future free agency, maybe it'll be harder, but we'll see what goes on to happen. We'll see what goes on to happen. So, getting into Wes Unseld Jr. real quick, he came in with his defensive philosophy. Obviously, his father, one of the best players of all time, of Wes Unseld. He's a junior, of course, and rest in peace to his father, one of the greats when it came to the Washington Bullets and in the NBA game. So he came in with this defensive philosophy. They actually got off to a pretty solid start, and then they tailed off after maybe like the first quarter of the season. You can say they finished 25th in defensive efficiency, which is not good, especially for a team that struggled in the defensive department with a Scott Brooks on a consistent basis. And in free agency or in the offseason, you went on to lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was one of your most solid defenders out there on the basketball floor. And Bradley Beal, I don't think he's a good defender. I think he's solid at best when he's providing effort on that side of the ball, because you know so much effort's going to be towards the offense side of the basketball. So sometimes you see players like that take plays off. I'm not saying he's a lazy player or anything like that. And when it comes to the point guard position, they did go on to acquire Monte Morris. And I think he's a nice, steady guy, you know, that's going to distribute the basketball, be unselfish. We saw him make questionable decisions in the first round of the playoffs versus the Golden State Warriors, but he was a very efficient three-point shooter, rounding it up to 40% from beyond the arc. I believe he shot 39%, but steady, runs the pick and roll pretty well, does a good job distributing the basketball. He doesn't really wow you with his size or anything like that, but I think he's a pretty solid player. So, will this team go on to go to the playoffs? It's just such a hard read, because a lot of things need to break right. I think they're more of a team competing for the play-in, like the New York Knicks, because can you rely on Kristaps Porzingis to stay healthy? Bradley Beal actually wasn't the most efficient three-point shooter, especially during the majority of last season, but I do think he's going to be a better three-point shooter this season. He has the touch. We see it from the charity stripe. We see it with finishes around the basket. You know, Damian Lillard, I think he's going to bounce back from downtown. Damian Lillard shot like 30.8% or 30% from downtown last season. So can you rely upon Kristaps Porzingis to stay healthy? You're number two. And can Kyle Kuzma continue to elevate his game or even replicate what he did last year? Because a lot of people make fun of Kyle Kuzma, but I actually thought he played some very solid basketball last year. So we talk about kind of the older players. Porzingis isn't old or anything like that, but he was drafted in 2015, so now he's definitely a veteran, you can say. So the projected starting lineup now, when you look at websites or even like CBS Sports, I was taking a look at, they had Monte Morris starting at the 1, Bradley Beal starting at the 2, Will Barton at the 3, which they actually acquired in the offseason, an athletic guy that brings you a huge spark, and he could have some big scoring games at times. And I feel he's kind of an under the radar type of player. He's been kind of undervalued when it's come to his NBA career. I'm not saying he's fantastic or anything like that. They have Kyle Kuzma at the 4, and then they have Kristaps Porzingis at the 5. So Kristaps Porzingis is probably the true X factor when it comes to this team. Like when it comes to health, like I mentioned, when it comes to, he needs to play like his size and not play like under his size. He's 7'3". He's gotten stronger throughout his career. He's still not the strongest in the world, but I'm tired of watching him post up, settle for jumpers. I hate that. Even though I think the pick and roll, the pick and pop is going to be very solid with Monte Morris, he could still protect the rim. Just the fluidity when it comes to the hips isn't the same in the New York Knicks uniform, even though I think he's starting to get that fluidity back, because it's not easy to come back from an ACL injury, especially when you're 7'3", but he's gotten better rebounding the basketball. I thought he actually looked pretty good in transition. Like when he got traded to the Wizards, I actually thought he looked pretty damn good. So we'll see what goes on to happen with Kristaps Porzingis, but I think he's going to be a true X factor, and no doubt about it, he could score the heck out of the basketball. And what also makes him so special is his ability to put the ball on the floor, hit those fadeaway jumpers, soft touch, get to the free throw line, mid-range territory from the outside. He's definitely a special talent, but again, comes down to staying healthy, playing like his size, and not being soft out there on the basketball floor, and also having better situational awareness when to give up the basketball to a Kyle Kuzma or Bradley Beal. So when I look at the starting lineup or projected starting lineup, I think it's okay. Like I mentioned, play-in team possibly, unless you just see one of these young guys erupt, because when it comes to that end of the season, I don't want to see at the end of the season Will Barnes still starting. I hope Deni Avdija goes on to start for the Washington Wizards, because that shows right there that you drafted good. When you take a look at the Washington Wizards player of Deni Avdija, who went on to be drafted in the 2020 NBA draft, I actually really liked him. I was really high on him at one point, that I was like, Chicago should take him at 4, because I didn't really think there was such thing as a reach in that draft class. Like there's still very solid players or good players, of course, like Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball coming out of that draft class. James Wiseman was a 3rd overall pick. He still needs to, or he was a 2nd overall pick, but he still needs to prove himself. Obviously, he's dealt with some injuries in his career. He's just got dealt weird cards, just being a part of a win now mode basketball team, and it's just very interesting. So Deni Avdija, he's balling out for Team Israel overseas, his national team, and I feel like his offensive bag has expanded. He's always had that step back when it came to playing for Israel overseas before he was drafted, but it looks more fluid. It looks like it's more effective. He has better body control. He doesn't look as stiff getting to the hoop. His handle has improved, and he's going to have to be huge for the Wizards on the defense side of the basketball. Like I mentioned, 25th ranked rating or efficiency defensively for the Washington Wizards last season, and Deni Avdija was actually a damn good defender last year if you watched him. On the ball, off the ball, constantly communicating. He's just a team player. He could pass the basketball. His touch needs to get better, though. He struggled from the free throw line. He struggled from the outside, but he plays extremely strong and physical, and I definitely want to see Deni Avdija's development just skyrocket. I'm not asking for him to be an all-star, but he should be a starter, because you need some more upside with this Washington Wizards group. And I think there is going to be some difference when it comes to the starting lineup, especially if Rui Hachimura even takes a step forward. But it's going to come down to Rui Hachimura, one of those guys is going to be inserted into the starting lineup, because I do think Kuzma is going to continue to start if he progressively gets better. There's a bunch of what-ifs with this team, because they have solid young pieces, but they're not all crazy young, because Rui Hachimura coming out, he played more than 1 year of college basketball when it came to Gonzaga. Same thing with Johnny Davis. He played a good amount of years when it came to college basketball. Deni Avdija was young, though, coming out. He was 19 years old when it came to his rookie year. You have Daniel Gafford. They didn't draft him. He was actually with the Chicago Bulls, but he's 23, 24 years of age. And talking about Johnny Davis real quick, I'm really interested to see where his minutes are going to come from. He really struggled when it came to the Summer League, but it's just Summer League at the end of the day. He does lack, big-time athleticism, even though I think he's a sneaky athlete, but he's a killer from mid-range territory. The knock on him was his three-point percentage, and how is his three-point shot going to translate to the NBA? Because he's so mid-range oriented, but he's a dog on the defensive side of the basketball. Sometimes he held onto the ball too long, which resulted in turnovers when it came to him playing when it came to college basketball. So he would often turn the ball over. But I liked him in college basketball. I really did. Trying to think, Wisconsin he played for. So we'll see what goes on to happen. It just seemed like his handle wasn't the best. He wasn't able to get to his spots when it came to playing in NBA Summer League. But I'm definitely rooting for him. You even have a guy of Corey Kispert, who is he's a good shooter. He's going to continue to be a good shooter. He's going to be a beast coming off screens, knocking down shots from the outside. He's going to be able to execute from the free throw line. He's an okay athlete. I would like to see them use him more cutting back door, moving without the basketball. He's okay defender. Doesn't have the highest ceiling when it comes to being a defensive player, but I believe if you have the effort, you have the technique, you could be a solid defender. And Rui Hachimura, yeah, he didn't play much last year. There's conflicting reports. I don't want to put any words in his mouth why he didn't play, or I don't know what reports were true or not, but he's a grown man. I feel his ability to get to his spots from mid-range got better when you did see him out there on the floor, and when he's engaged, he's a good player. He's a solid defensive player. He's someone that can get to the rack as well. And how's he going to progress as well? So just, and Daniel Gafford, I really like Daniel Gafford as a backup center. He could swat shots in your face. You know, he's a lob threat. He's an athletic freak of nature. He does a good job positioning himself for rebounds. So this is just such a weird basketball team. They even went on to sign DeLon Wright, who's a solid defender. You know, maybe he could replace KCP a little bit when it comes to defensively, but Denny Avdia, I think they should start him at some point. He's definitely going to help them out defensively. This is going to be a huge year for Wes Unseld Jr. I'm not going to say he's going to be fired after this year because it's only his second year in the league. And is his team, like, did the Wizards make a mistake giving this contract to Bradley Beal? It's like, are they really going to go anywhere with this roster? Do you see them attracting anyone at free agency? Do you think anyone really wants to play with Bradley Beal? Or is a huge trade coming in the future? Possibly next season or during this season? Maybe Denny Avdia. Wizards fans, maybe you don't like to hear that. But Denny Avdia, Gafford, or just Johnny Davis, some guys you drafted, Rui Hachimura, maybe in a package for the next disgruntled star or something like that. Because this team right now, I don't know. I think they're mediocre unless one of these players pops off. You never know. These guys are young, and you may see this guy doesn't have the highest of upside, but you could always get better up here. Your basketball IQ. Do you think they should have just blown it up, built through the draft, or do you like the Washington Wizards approach? They're just such an iffy team. I think they're kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere, but they obviously have their star player, Bradley Beal. Let me know down below your thoughts. Peace out, y'all.